Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Behind the Mic. I'm Gary Laubach. Mike Jones is still a little bit under the weather, so John Leone has agreed once again to step in, as he did on Saturday. Did a terrific job on Saturday. We'll be inside the huddle with Mike again next week, and hopefully he'll be sitting alongside of me. Well, we're going to take on Penn at Franklin Field. That's a 1 o'clock start. Hard to believe, John, the 93rd meeting between these two teams. It's a rivalry almost as big as the rivalry.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, and I think the first Saturday they played was the week after Moses brought the tablets down from Sinai. But, anytime the Patriot League and the Ivy League get together, not just the proximity geographically, but just historically, and two outstanding leagues that really emphasize the true meaning of student-athlete. And so it's always a good matchup.
Well, they got together with the Patriot League last week, did the Penn Quakers, and they ended up beating Colgate by a 25-14 score. Colgate winning that ball game at the half, but of course Penn came back and outscored them, shut them out actually in the second half. But before we look at the upcoming game, let's take a glance back at last week's ball game by Lafayette against William and Mary. John, I kind of look at that ball game as half full, half empty. The first half was basically a good first half of football for us. The second half was a half empty football game for us, and you're the perfect guy to discuss that because you're basically half full 90% of the time until you play golf, and then you're half empty because you think nothing is good on the golf course. How did you look at the ball game?
Well, first of all, my life is defined by half, but Gary, I'm with you, and again, I do like to look at the glass as being half full, and after that impressive opening drive by William and Mary, Lafayette came out, and for those of you who might not have been watching, I mentioned to you my favorite movie of all time is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You guys, we looked at each other and said, who are these guys? Because Lafayette's struggles offensively were well documented. The defense has carried them to whatever success they've had early on. But that first drive, Gary, really gave us a glimpse of what Lafayette football fans hope can become a common occurrence.
Yeah, that was a 91-yard drive right after William and Mary going down the field and scored rather easily against our defense, which really hasn't happened all year long. And we had guys that really stood out. Juju Young had a great game. Ryan Schuster, Marco Olivas, Gabe DuBois, all of them had really good ball games. Ryan Schuster, again, the Rookie of the Week in the Patriot League.
Yeah, that's 3 weeks in a row for Ryan. And Gary, this year so far is going to really test the creativity, the depth of John Troxell's playbook. We've played a difficult early schedule, a lot of physical teams. The injuries are starting to pile up on the offensive line. We know we have a challenge running the football, so what does John do? He comes out with his young quarterback. He starts throwing short passes. Ryan Schuster was just throwing darts, and it wasn't just that first drive. It was pretty much the entire first half, and that kind of flipped the script in terms of the football terminology. The run sets up the pass. I think our short passing game allowed us to make some hay running the football in that first half. The second half, the William and Mary team that, as Dennis Green said, they are who we thought they were. This is the 15th ranked team in the country. They're bigger, faster, stronger, deeper, and Coach London has that program. I really liked John Troxell's comment post-game. He got his team together and he said, that's where we want to be. That's the goal.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And Penn certainly will also be kind of the goal for Lafayette. Lafayette's done pretty well against Penn of late. They've won 6 of the last 9. Ray Priori is the head coach there, 7th year, but 35th year really within football at Penn. So, and Penn leads the series big time, 64-24-4. John, as we look at the Penn offense, they have an excellent running back in Trey Flowers, a good young quarterback, sophomore Aiden Sayin. In fact, he had a really good ball game against Colgate. John Casilli, Rory Starkey are his 2 basic receivers. The 2 of them caught 16 passes in the ball game against Colgate. This is a football team that can move the ball both ways, running it and throwing it.
No question, and I think the thing that people down in Philadelphia were most excited about, you mentioned the 2 go-to receivers, but Aiden Sayin distributed the ball to 10 different receivers. So Ray Priori, he's been there before. He's been 7 years as the head coach, but he's got 4 Ivy League titles. He's been coach of the year twice. They want to think, and I do believe that last year was a little bit of an outlier. It was an anomaly. They were 1-6 in the league. They were 4-7 overall. And don't forget, the Ivy League starts a week later. Colgate had the game under its belt. This was Penn's first time out, and I think in that first half, it kind of showed. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. They're picked to finish sixth in the Ivy League, and I think they expect to do better than that. They got 367 yards on offense in the ball game on Saturday, and defensively they played very well. They didn't even give up 150 at 149 against Colgate, only 43 yards rushing. So they have a good rushing defense, and that doesn't spell too well for us.
Yeah, exactly what my next point was going to be. They held a rush-heavy Colgate team to 43 yards on the day. They had 5 sacks. They had several tackles for loss. Penn has always been, at least in recent memories, a stout defense, do what you need to do offensive team. Now, they did put up some numbers against Colgate, but that's what I expect from them this week. They're going to challenge Lafayette to try to beat them through the air. Now, they've got game film from which to learn. They did not have that against Colgate, at least from this year. So we'll see. You can bet me that Ray Piori is hard at work as we speak.
Their leaders on defense, their safety Shiloh Means had a terrific game. He had 7 tackles in the ball game. Jake Heimlicher, he is a defensive end, and he's terrific. A couple of sacks in that ball game. He's a big kid, 6'4", 240 pounds, and he's been around. He is a senior. All right, we talked about some of the highlights for Lafayette, and certainly there are concerns, John. They're just averaging 60 yards rushing a game, 154 yards of total offense. The one area that really concerns me is 17 sacks so far in just 3 ball games.
Yeah, that Ryan Schuster, he's having trouble getting life insurance these days. He's calling all over the country. I mean, and again, give credit to John Troxel and his offensive coaching staff, because I think they did a better job, that stat notwithstanding, of trying to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Obviously, William and Mary, a team with a lot of depth and a lot of experience, can make adjustments. I'm not sure that Ray Piori has Penn at the level that William and Mary is. So we hope that John Troxel still has some tricks in his bag for his young quarterback. But Gary, when you're in a position that Lafayette is in, your margin for error is so slim. And I don't want to, suggest that Lafayette gave that game away by any stretch. But you go back to a couple of plays. The fumble when they were driving to tie the game, and the hold that was 15 yards. And you just never know. Lafayette might have been feeling a little better about itself, hanging in a little bit longer. But there were a couple of plays in that first half that, who knows, Lafayette might have been able to hang around a little longer.
You mentioned the injuries. They, of course, are problematic right now, as they are no matter when they happen. But we've got Olmstead, Schaefer, Grayson, Salopek, Sutton, Hull, Riley, and Hannah. All of those guys are banged up, did not play this last week. Not quite sure where they'll be in terms of this week. And, John, there's the other area. It's a 3/3 game. It's offense, defense, special teams. The special teams kicking game has just not been good.
Well, among those names you mentioned as being injured, obviously most Lafayette folks know that Billy Schaefer is an outstanding linebacker and really helps this defense. What people might not know, because those offensive linemen, the only time you call their name is when they do something wrong, but Billy Schaefer is our long snapper. And we talked about margin for error, and we talked about the precision with which our special teams have to function, especially in the kicking game. Snapper, holder, kicker, we've been just a tad off in terms of our field goal attempts, and that element has played big in the first couple of games.
And it looks like we've lost our center. Olmstead looks like he's going to be out for a while, so that is a huge loss along that offensive line. With all of that said, they will play Penn on Saturday afternoon at Franklin Field. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. You can watch the game on ESPN+. It should be a really good matchup between the two ball teams. We won't be there, at least behind the mic, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks behind the mic when Lafayette will take on Princeton. That's it for Behind the Mic. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, we wish Mike Joseph the very best and hope he gets back here. Thanks for watching. For John, I'm Gary. Goodbye, everybody.